Oh yeah, the art team carries Eve hard. And you know what? The player base could say that as an insult, but every single freaking dev I've ever talked to will agree with that. I mean, except for the art team. They'll probably be more humble than that, but like every developer I've ever spoken to, no matter how good they think their own stuff is, just goes, yeah, I mean, we're all just here to try to keep up with the art team.
Oh, fedt. Perfect. Hello, Fanfest!
Ah.
Nice to be back here, Lares Hane, with you. I'm CCP Blue Screen.
I'm CCP Benson.
I'm CCP Midgood. And yeah, it's been a while. Way too long. This was us at last Fanfest. But yeah, as you are hopefully all aware of by now, we are here representing Team Tri-Lambda. The graphics team of Serenalin. So we're a multidisciplinary team of about 20 artists with graphics programmers, artists, and quality assurance specialists. And so what have we been doing here the last couple of years? Although we've been working from home, we have managed to get some stuff done. So let's have a look back at some of the stuff that we rolled out since we last saw you here or not here, at Harpa at Fanfest. So we did a bunch of monuments, both in honor of players and their achievements, and also to commemorate in-game history and events. And also we managed to build a brand new JITA trade hub, both exterior and interior, with the new hangar environment as well. And of course the air laboratories as part of the new player experience and environments, both exterior and also a new hangar there. And of course we managed to get a whole lot of skins done. Here's the Capture Deer Day skin. And a lot of new environments for various occasions, from the new player experience environments, supporting the capital ship production with the Overmind Nursery and the Aegis capital ship facilities. And many other regular events as well. We also saw the Triglavians complete their push into New Eden by invading various systems. A lot of content there, and super carriers. We made huge updates to these awesome ships. So there's been quite a lot going on, and I'm not going to go scroll through all of it. So we put together some of the highlights in a short video, so we can wrap that up. So let's just roll that.
Like with everything else, they're going to start with what they've been doing, and then they're going to show us where they're going. That's just how every just get used to it, man. That's how these things work.
So yeah, that was a lot of stuff. But now let's look forward and look into the future and the third decade that hand you over to CCP Mirkur.
Thank you. So we are now.
I think they have it on the store.
journey
It's got a little
setting
like
Evo
dead
9
clone
up
on the
towards
front, I
third
think,
decade.
if I remember correctly.
With a renewed focus on art graphics, audio engine improvements, all to make EVE viscerally supreme. Now, the spirit of EVE Online's graphics has since at least 2007 been one of continual rejuvenation. For you, our players, and coming generations of players, so that EVE remains not just relevant, but vibrant and absolutely as stunningly beautiful as we can make it at any present time. And as we close in on the third decade, we want to be setting ourselves up for success by gaining meaningful improvements to our capabilities via the toolbox of technology that makes up how EVE is made. This then, in turn, will result in a higher quality game experience for you as we go. A more visceral, more visual, reactive, and dynamic experience. And you've seen some examples of that in recent things like the new player experience. EVE Online's tools team has also been hard at work behind the scenes. They're completely reworking our editor into a more modern framework. And as you might have seen, if you played the new tutorial, then many of the things that they have implemented for us
That's as loud as I can
over
make
the
it,
last
guys.
couple
I'm
of
sorry.
years paid massive dividends in making that experience just really much more reactive, dynamic, and interesting. All sorts of stuff happening as you fly and go through. Now, last year, the art team, along with representatives from the engine team, had many discussions and brainstorms talking about what we should prioritize and about what would bring the most benefit to EVE and as to what might have the most impact and open up the most possibilities for the coming decade in graphics. From that, a number of priorities and initiatives emerged, some from the top of which we are ready to talk about here today. And not to forget, some that have been a long time coming or are already ongoing or out, like the death of DX9. May it rest in peace. It was amazing when it came out, but I definitely think it stayed with us longer than wanted and held us back for a while. Now, last summer, we deleted the gray, as you saw earlier, with all these lighting changes and overhauling of our tone mapper, which really brightened and deepened the colors of EVE. As well as changes to shaders and reflections, making the ships just really feel like they're in those environments. And here's another before and after. You can really see the Fresnel highlight on the side of the ship. It's just like, you can see it's in that nebula. It's reflecting off of it. And here you can see the orange tint on the side of the ship. And as we spin around, it's coming from there. Really bringing the room together. Our graphics programmers have also been working hard on improving our reflections. And with the March release this year, we did a general pass of enabling reflections.
Those are reflection
across
probes.
the game, now including, but not limited to, stations and jump gates, explosions, hangars, adverts, fires on objects, standalone effects like wormholes, and more.
I've talked about this
Let's
before,
check
but
out some
basically what they did was they updated their
You already saw this earlier. This wormhole reflecting
reflection
on
mapper to
the
take
ship.
in more things.
Really cool. And
Real quick, what those balls do, so rather than having every single individual object try to figure out what's reflecting off of it, those balls can do the calculations just once for each of them. And then basically it takes the location of the reflection probe, or like basically it'll take the item, the object that needs to do the reflection, and it'll grab the nearest reflection probes, multiple of them, and then average them together in order to kind of sort out real quick what should be on that ship for its reflections.
just, yeah, all those details really reflecting on the surface of the ship now, all rendering in real time. And here we see a station. Maybe you can make it up. Right there.
When ray tracing, when we have
reflecting
way
on the
stronger
surface.
computers.
So as you fly around, you feel like this thing is over there on your ship. Explosions as well, of course, making everything a bit more realistic. And another thing, now this was actually implemented years ago, but it's so cool I have to mention it. The warp tunnel reflects on the surface of your ship. Absolutely love that. And now, with the latest changes, the difference between high and highest reflection quality is how fast it's updating the reflection. So here you can see it at high quality, and it's a little bit laggy, the reflections on the ship. And then we switch to highest, there, and they're butter smooth. So on highest, they're basically rendering every angle of the reflection, every single frame. So if you've got a good graphics card.
This may seem minor, but these are the kind of things you don't necessarily notice them, but they impact you psychologically.
Also on Jita and other places in the game, we have these small world flavor advertisements. They're also in reflections now. All just little bits to add to immersion. And while we're at Jita, I just want to mention this one thing we did while building it. We talked to our lawyer, who then went out and got us permission from the original artist to, include a replica of the Eve monument there. So the thought here was, wouldn't it be cool if, in Eve there was a place you could visit, and then when you come to Iceland, you can visit the real thing. The real world version is
the Eve one is the real
still
thing.
by the harbor, by our old office, but the plan is to move it to the new office. So do give it a visit if you haven't already, and why not stop by inside Eve on your next Jita shopping trip. So, you know us. We're always thinking of ways to enhance Eve Online, and one of the first versions of a new beast came out last year in the ESS update. This is, most of the tech behind it is pretty much ready. It's called Eve Stretch 3, as we call it. It allows us to run the visuals of stretch effects based on state. So instead of the old school thing where they're constantly fading in and out, like here, the above example, then we can have specifically showing, the start of an effect versus the middle and the end. So these are things that will aid in just being able to grasp the experience of combat in the future when we apply this to the rest of the effects. Because you can tell, something is starting to affect you versus everything just fading in and out. They'll also be adaptive, so they won't become very, too stretched or too squished, depending on how far away the target object is. And by doing that, the effect can retain more of its distinctive look. Also, depending on the size of the target object, the destination effects will adjust their size accordingly. So someone in a frigate, for example, won't be necessarily overwhelmed by effects that can fit anything from a battleship to a cruiser or even bigger. Should fit that ship. It's like the battleship is actually targeting the frigate, so a better experience for people in the targeted ships. There'll also be, that was a click. Another thing we can do now, and this opens up for a lot of possibilities, is that the stretch effect can reach into the targeted object, like it does here on the ESS, and start to modify things on the target. Like here it starts to flicker these specific lights on the target, showing that this effect from your ship is affecting that target. So in the future, we could do things with this, like potentially have warp disruptors look like they're actually affecting the ship boosters, or maybe have an energy neutralizer module that then, when it hits the target, leaves a trail of energy where it's sucking it out. So that could be something that helps, improve at-a-glance combat readability when you're jumping into a fight, and you don't necessarily have the UI icons of what's happening to the ships you haven't looked at yet. And in 2019, at Eve Vegas, we showed you this slide. And we can't really come back up here again without giving you an updated status. So, this was fittingly titled Far, Far Future Stuff, No Promises, okay. But I think that held up. So what I can tell you is we've had 1 year of COVID. We've had 2 years of COVID. And it's now solidly future stuff, because we are going to be looking into what we can do in the next 12 months and seeing what we can deliver. Now that was stuff that's a bit of a ways out, but what's coming much sooner That's the nebulous. And as you might have seen in the keynote, we're doubling the resolution. Really bringing out all the cool little details.
Yes,
to make it really rather noticeable in game.
They said that this is going to be
Might
all
be a
the
bit
stuff
hard
that's
with
coming
these
over
monitors
the next 12
the
months.
video compression and that. So you can see there on the left side, it's what was a sharp line and kind of looks like a little V. It's just a blurry mess.
So happy about this.
Once this is, you see this on the entire thing, it's way better than before. And it's slated to go out in the June release, so you can enjoy this very soon. Also, as mentioned in the keynote earlier, they're overhauling all of our level of detail systems,
Good point.
which opens up for us to have higher fidelity ship meshes and any other objects. But that's not only on meshes, there's also the turrets, the textures, which now operate independently from the mesh slots for the first time. So no texture popping either, and higher fidelity textures can be authored now. And beyond that, we also have now lotting of turrets, which before used to just pop out. And we have lotting of any new subship objects, such as VFX on ships, or new things we can envision in the future. And that opens up for a lot more ability to add different things to ships. Now to talk about some of the possibilities we are exploring and envisioning using all this tech that's coming online, let's hand it over to Mr. CCP Bluescreen.
Thank you. Yeah. So building Eve bigger and better. So how do we performantly render bigger space dungeons, better environments, and the increasingly complex assets such as stations and the hangar interiors without melting your computers? For that, we need to talk a little bit about a new system that we've been developing that we call the Eve extension system. Up until now, as far as extending or customizing any asset by spawning other assets on them, we've been restricted basically to turrets on ships, which in itself is a very specific system and not really usable for our purposes going into the future. So we really need something more configurable and adaptive for this. Something that can have state machines for running mesh animations and stuff like that. So here's like a prototype of something like that. Here we are spawning, on this avatar, we are spawning a bunch of apocalypses, and on those apocalypses we are spawning rifters. And on those rifters we are spawning Templars. So the children here that are spawned on will automatically, like by default, inherit the values, the color values, and the what we call the faction information, space object data, as we call it, like down the line. So you will maintain like visual identity across, but you can also at any point overwrite it. So you see the apocalypses here has not the basic AMAR template, and also the rifters are not inheriting that, but then the Templars go back to it again. So this gives us full control. And here, on this Hornet-Geddon, you see the extension inheriting that faction data. So this is basically stuff like Empire, faction, corporation presets, and surface material, glow colors, and logo information. All kinds of things like that to keep the visual consistency across these objects. And the obvious question then is, how does this impact performance? How many horns?
Hold on, time out. I am triggered right now. Did you just compare it to the Abyss? The Abyss pays out 0. The Abyss pays out 0. The stuff, the loot that you get off of your officer mods doesn't matter what your dynamic bounty multiplier is, okay? So let's not try to compare the two.
Can I have on a Hornet-Geddon? And so for maximum horns, we call on instancing. Here you see an early stress test of the instance system in action, where we are rendering a...
How much of that billions is in bounties? How much of it is in bounties? 0. You don't get a single fucking ISK from bounties in the Abyss.
About 400 keep stars. And you might be able to see down there in the right-hand corner, we are still running at a solid 60 frames per second. So that's great. Even more instance keep stars.
Hold up. Okay. Okay, this is why it matters. This is why there's a difference, okay? Because it does fucking matter, all right? Guess what? You have a dynamic bounty system. That makes it so if you kill a rat today, it might be worth more or less than it was tomorrow. You know what Abyss Runners have? The fact that all of their stuff is controlled by the market. Less than half of the loot that you get is guaranteed value. So when a bunch of people are... When the price of 0-point condensate, Nitrogen 5, cuts in half, everybody's fucking Abyss running is worth half as much. So no, they've actually been having to deal with this forever. So suck it up.
So outside of this being crowded and claustrophobic, this is us investing in the future and unlocking the future of Eve so we can build bigger and better things.
Yes, we get red loot. And you know what? Dynamic bounty multiplier only goes so low. So, yeah. I'm just saying. Like, yes, they both fluctuate in price, dude. Like, it's just, like... Look, man, I'm on your team about a lot of things, all right? I'm willing to admit that it's painful or there needs to be fixing and stuff like that, but let's back off of that comparison, okay? The Abyss gets a lot of unfounded hate, and it's not a good example in this case. Missions, incursions, and things like that, absolutely. I'm 100% behind you on those. I'm 1,000% behind you on those. I just think that I'm sorry. Let me be clear. I'm not like becoming defensive about my Abyss. I want us to be able to have good arguments. So if you go and say that incursions doesn't change, then I'm 100% behind you. That's 100% correct, and that needs to be fixed. But when you compare it to Abyss, you're actually defeating your own argument. That's what I'm trying to point out, right? So sorry I came a little strong off there, but I just wanted to but well, it was compared. It was brought up. So like I want BRM to be fixed, and I want you guys to be able to like it to work out, which is why I want to make sure that the communication that we have on the matter makes sense.
While keeping your computers alive at the same time.
Also, I love you guys.
And so with all this,
I'm gonna go get some coffee.
Obvious next step is corpse covered rifters, of course, right? So. When we'll make that happen, but maybe we'll also have other uses for this. And for a look at that, I'll hand you over to CCP Binson.
So these are some of the things that we are exploring. So besides rifters full of corpses, extensions mean we'll be able to modify your ships based on fitted modules or skin cosmetics, and by that bringing more variety and emphasis on your ship's roles or existing hulls. No, two existing hulls. Some purely additive things like extra plating, if you add an armor or other module to your ship. There's a lot of potential here for showing you what your choice of module fitting does to your existing hull. Here are some of the role-based explorations on the Heron. Like the early Tech 3 cruisers, but with more emphasis on ship modules affecting the hulls. These are some very exciting ideas for us to look better into in the future, something for us to strive for. Here's a recent actual example of a cosmetic change that shows the possibilities of the extension system. By adding slight variety to the base geometry, as was done with the Alliance tournament skin, with added parts, antennas, and other modified geometry. And with cosmetics in mind, we are looking at incorporating progression systems into our skin designs. Skins that could be modified based on kill count or rank. More exploration here, internally known as the snake hat.
Oh!
That could fit well for a Serpentis skin line tied to
fuck, I want that so bad. That looks so good. Hold on. No. I know this is concept, but like, no. I need that. I need that. That right there. I need that. I am a Serpentis loyalist. Oh my god. I know, look at Serenity skins, but like, oh my god. Those are cool, but like, I want that so bad. I wasn't until this moment. This was my Serpentis sexual awakening right here, guys. We all witnessed it together.
Our exploration here, internally known as the Snake Hat.
Oh my god.
That could fit well for a Serpentis skin line tied to faction standings or else. Here's a similar concept for a Rifter killer skin. And it's 3 stages.
I love the idea of Killmark.
And a live example of the Killmark skin, where you can see it reacting and growing with its destroyed ship.
Oh, you can see it reflecting off of the sides of the ship. That's cool.
So, from ship explorations, using the new extension system, to some actual upcoming extension feature, where will we be extending next? We brought some love to the interiors since last Fanfest. We did the new Gita 4.4 interior with grander scale and increased immersion. Brought up the scale and importance of the iconic trade hub, making it feel more alive. And for the renovation of the new player experience and creation of air, we did the inside of the new air stations.
They look sexy too. If you've never been to an air station,
the first hangar experience for new players in New Eden. So what's next?
We've already seen some of this stuff.
So we asked ourselves the question, what's next for hangars and interiors? Our Empire hangars have had a visual update with lighting improvements and other things over the years. But now they are falling short compared to our newest hangars. So we decided to create some designs for them that would also use the capabilities of our new extension systems. We started looking at the current Empire hangars and what could be improved. Our exploration started with figuring out how to emphasize the shape language of the exterior to fit better with its interior. On the left are sketches and examples of top-down layout designs and views for a few different hangars for each Empire.
I'm actually really surprised that they haven't shown the trig stations, because the trig stations, they really did take like existing stations and then they just put cool stuff in there, right? In the Pochvin systems. But yeah.
On the right is an image of size categories and relevant locations inside the hangar. The size categories are small, medium, and capital, because now we want more than one docking location for each hangar. With further exploration, we designed a prototype of a Minimata Hangar with distributed docking locations for small and medium class ships. For each docking location, there's a platform for relevant ship size category. Here's an early design for a small ship platform, which would hold shuttles to destroyers. Here's a 3D prototype of the layout, featuring several docking locations, both small and medium, and camera exploration. And a mood exploration for the Minimata Capital Hangar. So we did some storyboarding and sketches exploring how it could feel to have more than one platform for ships, how we move away from you being a solo pilot in isolation to a more populated environment with more sense of scale and feeling of being part of a living environment with other players. Here's an idea for your docking location. Next to a row of platforms with ships in same size class. And opposite, a potential location for other player ships. And seeing a capital in the distance from your platform with a possible goal to strive for. And some humans for scale, for imaginative purposes only. After still image exploration, we have an animated visualization of camera coming into a hangar and docking. And then seeing the larger ships above you, emphasizing the scale of your ship.
My only concern with all of these is like, are people going to be
After
okay
some
with
early explorations,
how much
few
time all these
discussions,
is
and
gonna
player
actually
requests in the
take?
past, we focused in on delivering the new hangar experience inside the Upwell player-made structures. Here is a top-down view of the new Upwell hangar design with distributed docking locations for small and medium-class ships. Here are some early work-in-progress images of the interior, using it to nail down the dimensions and scale.
That's true. You have the session timer.
Figuring out the sense of scale between small and medium ships. And a bird's eye view of the main interior with multiple ships in their docks.
Pilots are reminded not to engage in unlicensed ISTA-government disputes and all items are sold sealed.
This is a 3D prototype layout that we created.
I really wouldn't mind it, like if I clicked on a ship,
get more
like it
emphasis
just
on what
like
we're
the
doing.
camera snapped to that ship, so I was able to like select it.
So when we have
the
these
wall.
things
That one.
sort of figured out, it's good to establish sort of a visual target for the mood and the atmosphere that we're going for. It helps with lighting.
Time out. There should be sound. There shouldn't be sound in vacuumless areas. Okay, we've been over this a lot of times, but just in case, you do not experience the space around you. You are experiencing a simulation created by your pod based on the information from telemetry data around your ship and its camera drones that lets you know what's going on. They artificially create sounds for you because they found that the more like senses and immersion that they can provide to the pilot, the more responsive they can be. And I'm not saying by they, I don't mean Sysisaplety, I mean the Jove. If you want more information, read Jovian Wetgrave. It's been read by the Eve Reader podcast if you want.
Where we add more sense of station live and station activity and possible locations for Alliance banners. Here are some further detailed designs of parts of the hangar, for example, the main entrance.
I'm afraid that BRM is becoming like a token, like an icon of the problem.
And designs
but it
for
isn't
hangar
necessarily
main 3D hologram location.
thing that needs to be, that will actually cause a real fix, a real.
Here are some small platform bracket designs
could be wrong.
which hold the small platform in place and surrounding structure.
Small platform.
Here's a variation to those brackets with animation ideas. Here are some early side profile designs of the Upwell small platform. A perspective view of the small platform with added detail. And animation ideas for movable parts in your environment. And some explored variations of the small platform that we could possibly create with the new extension system. In the past, we have had ideas to incorporate clickable elements inside of the hangars. Clickable things that represent station services, for example. Or large-scale loading bars or notifications for skill queue info. Status panels, market prices, agent...
I've been saying this for a long time. You know what I want when I log in? A Neocom or whatever, it pops up that tells me my news for the day. And I can customize the kind of things that show up on that news. Am I interested in certain SOV? Am I interested in certain, like I can say, okay, well, if this thing goes below this certain price, or, you know, maybe I have a special kind of mission or whatever. Maybe I need, you know, basically I get a newsletter that I can open up and be like, what's my news for the day? Like, I wake up every morning and I sit down with my cup of coffee and I read my Reddit and I check out the news to see what's going on. I want to be able to do that when I log into Eve. World News too. Yes, exactly. Well, yes, obviously the New Eden News would be part of that.
Mission notifications, and for example, a surrounding star map. We included some of those ideas within the Upwell platform designs, where we spread them around the ship. So each corner of the platform has the potential to serve a function down the line, like station services, agent interactions, ship maintenance, industry and manufacturing, and player info. Here's an idea for some contextual clickable things behind your ships. A possible location for your extra pods next to your ship. So these clickable UI ideas that we are thinking about are still in early exploration and aren't scheduled to be included in the first release of the hangars, but this is something that we're very much thinking about. Then we have the medium UFL platform that holds the medium-class ships. The size category that will be visible on top of these platforms include cruisers and operators. Here you can see the medium platform in one of its locations within the UFL hangar. So around these platforms, we are building the hangar, but in parts. Currently, all hangars in-game are a single large asset, like most of our assets in-game. But with the new way we are going to build hangars with a new extension system, they will function more like our Tech 3 cruisers. They will be split into layers, which will open up the possibility to have a variety of hangars with a small set of different parts. We will then be able to vary the hangar interiors based on station services, the type of structure, and its location within the EVE universe. These are the current parts that make up the assembled UFL hangar using the extension system. Multiple platforms, small and medium, distributed around the main hangar.
I'm sorry, what? Are you implying I'm a goon? I'm not even gonna.
Of course, for
answer
deployable UFL structures that are fitted
hilarious.
with a capital hangar, they will be fitted with one. So a new UFL capital hangar is upcoming.
Does it spin? That's all anybody cares about.
When all
I
of
don't,
these
but
parts
that's all
have
they
been
care about.
put together, we need to fill them with light and life. So I hand it over to CSB Mirkur for a discussion on that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Dragon. It's so funny how much I get, like, how quickly somebody accused me of either being a goon or
we set
anti-goon
about designing
or whatever,
this
just
layer
because I have a single
around
position on a
the
single
small
thing.
platform. Because we wanted this to
Do you
be a pretty reactive experience. Something that reacts to,
don't make
when
me
do
ban you,
something,
man.
Things happen. And to do this, the platforms will have 4 states of change. An inactive sleep state for when you are not present at the dock, an idle state while you're docked, as well as a specific look when you're docking and versus, when you're docking versus undocking. All to make this a polished and reactive experience. Oof. Since you're going to be seeing them in the following videos, best to call them out now, how the lit particles are here. There's a layer
once again,
of those around the
thing that's being shown off here is not the light,
and we're
but
also
the smoke.
distributing those around just the
So
general
we're all
hangar
clear.
area. Also important to note is that the idea is to have an array of these small platforms down the left side of the frame. And the rest of the hangar is further behind in development than the small platform, but we're working our way through it. Here you can see a docking venture, and you can see the holograms lighting up as the ship comes in. Then they basically fade away to a calmer state so that the focus can be on your ship. This is very much the shrine of the ship. After a while,
I don't like the
docked
smoke either.
also, your boosters start to kind of cool off.
They need to decide what they're going to
here's
do
what
about the
just
lore
straight
when it
up
comes to the
undocking
peg, like
looks
really
like
fucking
right
bad.
now. And you get this moment of feeling like you're actually leaving, unlike our current hangars, and fades to black as before. But what happens if
It shouldn't be a jet or a stream, it
you
should be
cancel
light.
the undock? This is a problem we haven't had before. So where's the ship going to go? Well, we have this dock assigned to us already. Maybe we should just turn back. So yeah, this part is going to be sped up right here. Boosters off. maneuvering for landing.
Also, it's going backwards.
And sneaky little side note, if our devious plan comes to fruition, then maybe this is just a way more epic ship spinning. Do a little, you know.
It's not an ion drive.
So if you ever run out of platforms in the hangar because you have too many...
So this is the problem, okay? And this is, like, we've been getting closer and closer and closer to a head on this, but if the lore is going to become more and more important, then we're really going to have to address this, right? We currently have, like, 2 models of physics within the game, and they're both recognized depending on where you're looking at. You have the PEG max singularity model, where the ship is actually in a gravity well, and the exhaust is, in fact, like, basically light and energy bleed off from the PEG system. It explains the warp core and all that sort of stuff. And then, but the other pieces, like, for instance, the fact that, like, the lore indicates that jump gates require binary star systems, right? Like, there's a few things in the story right now, especially when it comes to the nature of warp physics, that I just, like, as it becomes more and more important with things like the Triglavians and all this stuff, it becomes important to address that shit. So no, like, the whole point of it is that like, afterburners may add extra propulsion through some sort of discharge, but according to the model of physics by max singularity, the shit coming out of the back of your engine is not, like, exhaust. It's not an engine. It's basically glowing from the unorganized energy of the PEG. So we're gonna have to come in here and square the circle, I guess. I don't know.
Ships, and you want to switch to one that's not in a dock already.
Nanites.
And then we have also made it so that we can materialize in the ship in and out in place. Lights turn on. Nice.
The structure actually has their 6 pegs inside of it.
We're looking into is connecting the outside of the structures with the interior hangars, so you can kind of see, you know, the outside state of the structure. Yeah, these are just some placeholder textures right there. Work in progress, all of this. But it's not just that notification on its lonesome. We also want to convey the overall state of the structure through this layer across the hangar, indicated here in red, so that the mood of the hangar kind of matches what's happening. In this video, you're seeing basically the shield, just normal. Everything's good to go. These lights are inheriting the color of whatever the faction.
I do want
the
all of the lights
is.
to, like, all of the klaxons to be going off when it's being bashed.
Then this is then when the shield transitions into armor. Get a little bit of different notification. The lights in the top right turn on, extra lights, and we get this rhythmic beat.
Special. I think that they're fixing that.
There's a little bit of urgency and danger now.
Something I've suggested forever.
Check out what's going outside. We might also drive this based on the structure vulnerability states. It's just TBD what makes most sense to hook this up to. Now, some of you probably remember the tagline from when Upwell Citadels were first released, Rack Their Dreams. Well, now we're into Hull, where things really start to happen. The rhythmic beating speeds up. You get the sirens and warning lights, klaxons, peer and rotate. We may also have
I think it's autopiloted.
Fires and gas leaks.
I have to double check.
Progressively ramp up as the health of the structure depletes, making it an ever more precarious environment. And just a reminder, this is all work in progress. We need to figure out how much of this we can do before.
I want klaxons.
Rendering performance.
There it is. I see the light in the background.
Of course, the lighting in the overall hangar is far from final. But if all goes decently well, then when your racking machines begin, you're not just going to be racking their dreams, but, you know, giving your enemies nightmares of sirens and hangars burning in the night, you know. Or at least you hope you're
I want it
to
to sound like the world's ending.
We're very excited to be bringing you these new hangar environments and taking you up to a new level. Before that we leave the topics of hangars for now, let's take one last look at this video.
I'm reasonably sure, like, on handoff, it does automatically get taken over by the system. They wouldn't trust us to just run around willy-nilly.
One cool thing you might have noticed there also is that, like, when the ship is landing, it is changing. The mesh animations are changing into the packed mode of the ship. Really, really sweet. And now to talk about the environmental things, let's bring CCP blue screen back up.
Awesome. So no more spinning in stations, just docking and undocking in station.
I'll have to go look it up. I remember distinctly
So
something about a tractor
environmental
beam.
things. Yes, firstly, we've already touched on the past environments briefly, but I just want to circle back to the new player experience environments that we created. So these environments were big multi-team projects with a lot of new tech and functionality beyond just the visuals that Team Triander delivered. A new story-driven node graph system were developed for the dungeon editor. So amongst other things, we deliver authored cinematic camera moments within the dungeons environments themselves. And again, in the latest mining experience environment, the dynamic environment assets coupled with these authored cinematic camera moments work together to deliver some very, very cool moments in the environment experience. And among many new functionalities, we've now, for example, been triggering effects and animations and other dynamic assets based on things like camera viewpoint and player proximity. So while talking a bit about the mining experience, this is some early explorations into the mining environment. And here's some 3D exploration inside our engine, just using various available assets for some visualization of the feel and look of the scene. Super useful. This is quite cool. And another new, very cool part of these environment experiences, of course, the characters that our amazing character team produced and the interaction with these. Here's everyone's favorite fleet commander, Balin, and Elias, and Vesper, and of course, Aura. So Team Muppets, our character team, had a huge part to play in making these environments feel immersive and interactive with the agent and aura animation.
Aura
and
always looks spooky
dialogue.
with her lighting.
So a lot of new tech and assets went
like
into
she's
this.
mad at
and
me.
more than just looking great for the new player experience, it provides us with a lot of tools and awesome new stuff going forwards with future immersive environment creation. And this is true for pretty much all the new tech developed for this feature. So let's just have a look at some of these things I'm talking about in action, starting with Aura, telling you a little bit about what's going on and how weapons works.
Like all capsules, it is unarmed. A proper ship comes with proper weaponry. We must scan the debris for a space-worthy vessel.
So apart from the cool effects and assets and animation going on in this scene, there's also a little example of what I talked about before with the camera triggers. So this explosion is not going to happen until you look at that part of the wreck over to the left.
That's really cool.
And there's a bunch of other triggers that make sure that you don't miss all these cool things in there by
That's
looking the
actually
wrong
really
way at the wrong
cool.
time, which is really cool. And also, in the beginning of the mining experience that we come to in a bit, we'll see some good example of the cinematic moments I was talking about, which is happening inside the dungeons themselves.
Captain, I have run several scenarios that could explain the mystery signal Air discovered at the mining site. According to my calculations,
It's a good point, Bourbon.
the scale of Air's mining operation is rather impressive for such a young corporation. They must be remarkably well funded. It is little wonder that Miss Calatrix would suspect espionage.
By the way, in case you guys don't know, this is in the
yeah,
game
good
right
example
now.
of the dynamic
this
assets
whole
and
animation.
redundance here also.
Further
You good?
speculation will have to wait. We're being hailed by that orca.
And of course the new mining effects. They're awesome. So cool mining gangs, NPC mining gangs in here as well.
I can't believe they didn't show off the mining effects with the new when they're
And
showing off the stretchable
lots
particles.
of rocks, lots of space rocks, which kind of bridges us into the next topic on hand. There in the background, the huge backdrop rock is one of our first efforts into space rocks of new. We have a few of them. And by a few, I really do mean we have a few of them. So by proud of that, you've probably all met this guy a few times before. And you've probably seen this guy plenty of times. And this
twice.
tangled mess,
Oh, God.
you know as well. Even our mineral asteroids only have 4 shape variations each. So you know it's not a big credit to your asset library when you start to get familiar with every little pebble and rock scattered around. And another issue with it is the size variation, or the lack thereof. Any size variation in any of the before-mentioned assets, and this only really applies to the mineral asteroids, is scale. They're simply scaled up, and for the asteroids, it's depending on how much ore is allocated to each asteroid. And that's not super cool, and it makes ginormous asteroids look exactly the same as tiny asteroids. And also, the bigger they get, the worse the texture resolution gets relative to the assets around it and the ship you're flying in. So basically, you would want to specifically author tiny asteroids, huge asteroids, and everything there in between. So we did already start to look at this.
I want to talk about something real quick. Back in the day, I don't even remember what it was, but they were talking about tessellation and stuff back then. There was this whole thing about high resolution graphics, and they talked about it at Fanfest. And there's even a forum post that was like one of the most popular forum posts for years, literally. That was this mega thread or whatever talking about the high resolution graphics and what it would take and why they couldn't do it. And oh well, we don't know whether or not we can distribute it to everybody. Blah blah blah. And in the end, it was like, well. The problem is that, well, actually what ended up killing it was as they moved into Citadels, they were like, we want to make things that are so big that we can't, like, we would have to create the same resolution graphics for everything. And for the bigger stuff, it would break everything. So we can't do it. So there's always been this kind of like, we can't do it, we can't do it, we can't do it. And so they're kind of beating around the bush when it comes to this kind of thing. But if you can untether that, then this game can look a lot fucking better for people that can manage those high resolution graphics or texture packs.
And these kind of assets with the Abyss, we created 3 new abyssal asteroid sets, which all have small, medium, large, and extra large variations. But we wanted to create more with more variation. Everything from generally usable generic asteroids to region-specific, rare and unique asteroids. So we started doing what we do. We started drawing dark and gloomy silhouettes of space rocks. All kinds of space rocks, like pointy cliff-type space rocks and basalt-type space rocks. We started looking at different effects ideas like clouds, surface cracks, interior glow, ore. And here again, concept ideas for surface detail and fall-off debris, effects, clouds. And just different archetypes and different variations, maybe endemic to specific regions of space. Now when I say that, I'll hurry up and add that we are only doing art here, so there's no initial resource distribution involved here. The basic concept, at least in the first stages, is purely decorative environment asteroids. We can't forget about exploring the size variation here. How does a specific archetype of asteroid look when it's the size of a car versus when it's the size of a mountain? And also we start looking into ways of creating these asteroids, softwares, workflows, here using different procedural noises in different softwares, different parameters. So we're just exploring all kinds of shapes. And of course, there are in-game considerations that we have to evaluate when looking at the different designs. Things such as poly count, texture application, asset collision. We settled pretty quickly on utilizing some sort of procedural asset generation software.
That's really cool.
Basically to speed up the process of creating more asteroids. So once you have developed the recipe for a...
You know, sorry, I'm going to interrupt this and I'm going to let him keep going, but that is so fucking brilliant. Like, why hadn't I thought about that before? Like, rocks are generated based on laws of physics. So it makes sense that your rock assets would be built off of, you know, dynamic algorithms. Just throwing that out, like, that way the system can grow rocks on the fly.
A specific archetype of asteroid, you can extremely quickly create a large number of variations of that type.
Or even not on the fly.
Just so you don't
like,
keep running into those 3 rocks that you nicknamed 2 years ago. We started pretty early in the process already, experimenting with some assets in Houdini. Just taking simple test assets from Houdini through a process into our engine, applying textures, etc., seeing how that worked out, getting ideas, and building on that. We're exploring different simple noises on simple shapes.
You guys should check out geometry nodes on Blender.
Noises, creating both your base shapes and your surface details on top of those shapes. And you can take that further and get more complex. So you move into more complex setup, building like bigger type rocks, more shape variation with a lot more going on, maybe additional rock fragments, break-offs, and stuff like that. So, but we took one of the really basic concepts to begin with a little bit further. So this is some really very early prototypes of the first generic asteroid type that was created procedurally in Houdini. And we start looking at what works, what doesn't, UVs, how we're going to UV this, texture mapping, texture resolution. You try and look at all that, but all you really see is just faces, just eyes staring right back at you. Yeah.
Eve needs a googly eye mode.
Because that's
Confirmed.
just how the human brain works.
We need it.
It's really annoying.
It's settled.
But, anyway, we'll move on and
googly eye mode.
adapt, persevere.
This is the art
Here
panel.
we compare like 4 types of asteroids. The 2 on the left are the...
Hold up. Did my stream go down? We good? We all good? We need googly eyes. Good, okay.
2 of the abyssal asteroid types. All the way on the right is an ore asteroid scaled up to that size. And then in the middle there is the one of our new prototype asteroids. And we can look at the texture resolution we get just by comparing with an asset in front. We scale that up. You see, if you compare from the old asteroids to abyssal asteroids to a new test subject, we're moving in the right direction.
It'd be really helpful if these were
and
labeled.
also graphics text, such as surface shaders, very much come into play here, basically allowing us to tile and blend different textures together for surface variation and resolution.
No, they need to bounce around through physics.
So this is something that's still very much in development on this project. But I mean, we can already measure some good quality progress by optimizing our asset development and applying new approaches. So, don't know if you can see that, but up there we have Jita, right there. So this is a pretty big space rock. And if we go up close, we can see how it manages. So, I mean, that's already pretty decent, and we're definitely making some progress here. And so we use our Houdini recipe, and we build a few different size variations, and we can start playing around with the surface and surface effects of these guys.
Make the Jita moon have textures
create some
that
initial
good.
test environments, and checking lighting on the textures and on the meshes.
Yeah, that looks good.
How does that work out? From battleship-sized asteroids to mountains at a whole different scale than anything else in K-space at the moment. And so we also managed to keep the polycount and usage of these polygons to a level where we can maintain some interesting details on the silhouettes of our assets. And yeah, we should be able to build some pretty interesting environments with stuff like this. But hey, let's have a look at what an environment like this might look like. So we fitted an exploration rifter, and we sent it out below the asteroids. So let's check out how that went.
I could definitely see flying around just places like people. Within 12 months. Within 12 months. It's looking kind of smooth to me. There might be little hangs here and there.
Right.
Yeah, can I, with rocks that big, can I break line of sight? I think that that's the important one, right?
So what's next for EVE environments? What's the next project, and where could we, for example, use all these space rocks? So right now, we're working on updating all of the career agent environments in one big pass.
Ooh.
So this is a very different kind of challenge than
So I forgot to mention this earlier. It keeps coming up. And I'm just going to say this right now, just for everybody's edification. Every time this comes up, there's always people that are like clowning on it. The term dungeon doesn't mean that CCP has suddenly decided that they're making World of Warcraft, all right? They use industry terms for industry concepts. Sites, to them, are referred to as dungeons. Individual grids within those sites are called rooms. And acceleration gates that go between those grids are called doors. That's just the terminology that they use. It's to make it so that it makes sense to the people outside of EVE. It is not anything to read into as far as like CCP being out of touch or something like that. It's just the language they use behind the scenes, okay? Anything new until May 17th? Okay, I was 100% wrong on the May 17th thing, okay? I'm sorry. That's my big struck. That's my big I got a lot of things right. I did not get that right.
the standalone environments that was developed for
What happened?
I'm Spencer
Stop!
Todd.
No!
I'm running
Stop!
for Marion County District
No!
Attorney. I grew
experience and requires a very different approach from a content update viewpoint. The career agent dungeons include 5 paths.
I got several things right.
89 dungeons total. Introduces 4 pirate factions and also introduces a bunch of game mechanics to players like combat, looting, scanning, hacking, and so on. So in EVE we have literally thousands of dungeons like these, in pretty bad need of a graphics overhaul. And if we're gonna have any hope of ever getting around to updating all of those, we need to approach this in an effective and systematic way. Amongst other things, this means updating and using existing assets in clever ways. It also means developing a system of thematic environment templates, like post-process settings.
YouTube, why are you doxing me?
Like pirate and exploration and combat environments, for example, that can be reused across New Eden to create environments with identity as well as variation. So in this case, for the career agent dungeons, it made sense to nail down and define like the pirate infrastructure asset line. And here are some examples of these. Like some of these structures already. Some were missing a few things that we put in there. So we have the blood data line, and we have outposts and hideouts and warehouses. Here is the Serpentis structure line. And the angel structures. There's also towers there and pirate dens or labs. And finally, Godistas. And it's important to us that when you meet this pirate infrastructure in Eden, it's the correct style and look for that pirate faction. And this is unfortunately not something that is currently very well implemented across our environments. And after this work and these assets create an asset library line that can be used going forward in all pirate environments. And there's many other non-pirate assets that can be quickly updated to enhance immersion, variation. Take this guy, for instance. A top choice and favorite for the dungeon building of yesteryear. This tiny little structure is quite a chameleon. So this is used as in New Eden environments. And it's many things. Here it's a prison. Can also be a casino. Or a narcotics lab, also. Or maybe a pleasure hub. All right, there might be some crossover there, but this Swiss Army knife of a structure also serves as a hotel and a hotel with a radiation leak. Yeah, so I mean, we already had lots of assets in Eve, and surely we must have some structures that can fit these use cases better, and maybe that way we can add a bit of variation.
Samuel, that's
and
new to you? You just haven't been looking
in the
around.
Environment. How about a Concord
These are not
prison
new.
facility, for instance?
What are you talking? Okay. That's new.
Or like the old Titan Yard Inn Hotel. Oh, could even leak radiation if the story calls for that. Or
Glorification to you, Contempo Enterprises. Thank you so much for that raid. Welcome, everybody. Settle on in. We are most of the way through the art panel. We've had a good day so far. We're just checking out the everything that was released.
a proper
I mean,
pleasure hub
you know,
hotel
shown today.
tower. Maybe even including its own casino.
Can I get a shout out?
Nightclub edition here. I mean, so looking
Oh,
into the future,
my bad,
those
Samuel.
are just a few examples how we were preparing updates in big groups of dungeons with updated and reusable
That's
structure
cool.
systems and templates. Oh, look, the roulette is running.
I want that.
No, you lost. Yeah,
Ah.
sorry. Yeah.
Is that like a blitzball
wonder how that
tournament
looks if you win.
stage? That's really
Find
cool.
out. Anyways, for the career agents, we are looking to deliver those dungeons with the June release. And I just got a few quick examples of some very much work in projects dungeons, work in progress. Like, so this is the hidden smuggler gate, for instance. It's one of the dungeons in the cache for Capsuleer's path. We have the, we just showed you the radioactive, this is the radioactive hotel I showed you before. Also from the cache, whoa. Okay. So yeah, also from the cache of Capsuleers, cache for Capsuleers. And the final one is the pleasure hub, the pirate hidden run from Soldiers of Fortune path. Oh, he won, see?
Those effects look baller.
All right, but while on environments, I believe there is another batch of dungeons that might be seeing a big revival. For that, I present to you, again, Sydsaplenty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, does anyone remember back in the early 2000s, EVE Online used to have these really interesting and atmospheric dungeon environments?
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Sadly, due to the ravages of time and massive changes to the rendering engine, they were left in disrepair and eventually toggled off from being rendered in 2011 during major engine rework. And I don't know about y'all, but I really loved these environments back in the day, and I feel like they did a lot to give you that the once-in-a-while moment of just wow factor and awesome when you jump into or warp into a dungeon and something just like completely different is there. That's just so integral to exploration. So into the Abyss expansion, we did something similar. We got some base tech for this, but now the time has come to re-enable these in EVE and resurrect them at greater fidelity. Let's take a look at what they look like.
upgrading the nebulas and then hiding them. Thank you very much. 070 Sandrock Eve with that Prime Sub Gaming. You guys rock.
So around 76 dungeons will be getting their environments back with unique accompanying soundscapes, as you just
Do you know
heard.
how much we're ripping apart
And
space?
If everything goes according to plan, they will be out in the June release.
Nice.
So, to wrap things up, and before we go, I just want to say we're so excited to be bringing you all of these improvements.
Yeah, that's what they're
across
saying.
Eve.
This is going to happen in regular space. That was the
Lots
whole,
of good
that was the
stuff
whole
coming.
point.
Look at that. It's cool. Please come and chat to us at Fanfest. We're here to talk to you.
Oh,
And,
seven.
Especially as artists about
07 to you, Heart Daddy 33 with that Prime Sub Gaming, and one step away from a hype train being kicked off. That's very kind of you. I appreciate everybody's support once again. You guys rock.
art and graphics and all these features that are coming. Give us all the feedback you can muster. You can find the art team. I can feed the art team. No, you can find them upstairs at the art corner. And there will be an art and audio roundtable tomorrow in roundtable room 1 at 1400 hours. So that's pretty much it for us, but we'd like to leave you with a little highlight video and hope to see you at the pub crawl. Let's play the video.
Gummy 07 to you, thank you. Oh,
It's lagging audio. No audio.
audio! Hype train! Oh, 07 Dead Minds Podcast, 8 months subscription. Thank you very much. Woo! That was really cool. Thanks for the bits. Nice. Yes! Trig dance!
Remind you, my protocol allows me to take full control of this ship as a safeguard against capsuleers that enter a mentally or neurologically unstable state. You have been warned.
I want her to tell me that. I've never wanted that more in my life. Zoran Sons. Nick Bison, 07 to you with 5 gifted subs on behalf of El Micra, Phantomin, Washa Squasha, I think, Cherry Sani, and Revstone1. Thank you very much, Nick. It is very kind of you, and I really do appreciate the support. You guys have all been very, very cool. We have a hype train. We're probably going to wrap up this art panel, and then I'll do the giveaway for the art for the hype train. Thank you for those bits, Rice, and then we'll talk about wrapping things up. Nick, or everybody, I guess. Yeah. Thanks again, Nick.
Visual supremacy.
Visual supremacy.
Yeah, exactly. Visual supremacy is a good word for it.
Thank you, Sunrise.
Visual
Very kind of you.
supremacy.
Visual supremacy.
Visual supremacy.
Visual supremacy.
Show me a space game that looks better than this.
That's a good question, Tempest.
Well done. It's really impressive.
Get with the smoke. Just put it on, man.
Bless, bless.
Thanks, Ginger. Means a lot.
Thank you.
I want to believe that if it was mine one, they'd give him credit.